And let's say you did win, even though you don't know. Say you won. What forces the news to tell the truth of who won? There's no election law. There's no election law that the news is under. There's no law of anything, right? That they have to say this. They're under no civil or criminal liability to say anything. So even if you win the election, that's why I wonder. When Stephen Trump or Lindell come in and they start talking about the mail-in ballots or the voting stuff, is that how come nobody's talking about the guy who tells everybody who won? Our whole lives, we never got to see the phone call that they say they got when, they just called us right now and so on. Now they even do it before, now they even do it like a projection style before the counting's even done. They say who won. I mean, we got to kill the messenger. We have to make a law that has a press if you're going to announce something, if Dana's going to announce something, everybody, we've always done press conferences. That's what we do. That's what people do. They do press conferences and the press comes. But this one, they call the press behind our backs and the press says it. Is that an accident? Or, and the whole time we're looking here, the ball's over here. But what about these guys? Are we never going to look at these guys? I'm waiting for Trump to, say, well, let's go look at these guys for a little bit. We didn't see what happened. And it makes you wonder, why does CNN, Google, like you said, it's been curated, and Fox and all these people, there's nothing that holds them to that they got to tell the truth. What we need is the press conference. So if the guy doesn't tell the truth, he's incriminating himself right there. He works for the government. I'm sure he has to have signed some kind of oath, whether civil or criminal liability, that he has to tell the truth and then have all the news.
Well, that was the case. Just if that was the case with the news, they had to tell the truth. Like, they would be in a lot of trouble. Like, just imagine just the war in Iraq, just the weapons of mass destruction, just the Russia collusion scam that they talked about forever.
Yeah.
That the people responsible for that are totally being taken seriously in other manners.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, that it is not when people in the mainstream media talk about the elections and election fraud and, outside forces coming in and trying to undermine and usurp our elections. They obviously never talk about themselves and how much propaganda they put out to create this facade of a democracy where essentially they work with the power elite in Washington from one party or another, and they basically decide, hey, here's the people that we're okay with voters being exposed to. These are the acceptable people, and here's the people who are unacceptable to the elite, and therefore we got to destroy them. And this is what I went through when I ran for president in 2020, the Democratic primary. From the very first day I announced through the entire campaign, it was already decided that I was not a candidate that they found acceptable. We are seeing and so they did everything they could to discredit and smear and, media
Hillary
blackouts
Clinton was
and all
saying
this.
You were a Russian asset.
Exactly. And no member of the media ever said, oh, really? What evidence do you have of that?
Right.
They repeated the line over and over and over again, and it worked. People believed it.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the same thing happening now with RFK. They decided, hey, this guy is speaking way too much truth, and so we're going to do everything we possibly can to block voters from hearing him, and we are going to try to smear and discredit him with lies so that if they do hear him, they're not going to believe what he says.
Yeah. I mean, anything... So many things you wonder from the news. So if the news isn't true, what about history? And it's the funniest thing, me and my friend talking the other day, and we're like, we came to the agreement that, you walk in, what's the only thing you don't see in the cave when you look at all those different pictures of UFOs and dinosaurs and stuff? You don't see a caveman. So what you don't see, So it's funny. It's funny what is out there and what we take as fact and what we
What do you mean by that with the cave people?
No, how they
right.
all the different drawings that you see dinosaurs,
the
UFOs, just the different stuff. But
they never drew each other.
Yeah, like you never see a caveman.
That's funny. I never even thought about that.
I don't know enough about it to notice.
I guess people just died so quick back then. They didn't really.
Well, you question everything. I mean, University of Hawaii wants to own the Native Hawaiians' history, and they get so aggressive all the time the professors and this and that. And I'm like, you're just taking money from the state. You're just another department like all the others. And, it does, it makes me wonder the different things that, they say from a petroglyph that they made this boat and we came across the ocean and different things. And, being from Hilo, we're the ones who always get hit from the tsunamis. So I'm like, hey, man, how do we get hit from the tsunamis if we knew about the water so well? I mean, it makes you wonder,
I think makes you wonder. The thing that is so alarming is that, again, I'm going back to the funding for Ukraine. The fact that there are Democrats and Republicans in Congress who have blocked every attempt of accountability for how that money is being spent, how our money is being spent, says it all. They don't want us to know where that money is going. They don't want us to know how it's being used. They don't want the corruption that continues in Ukraine to be exposed. They don't want us to know the truth. They just want us to continue to support them writing this with this blank check, essentially, without any justification, and tearing people down who just say, hold on a second. How does spending hundreds of billions of dollars of our money help us? How does it help the American people? How does it help our national security interests? It doesn't help us, and it undermines our national security interests, because the consequence of this that we are directly facing because of the Biden administration and the warmongers in Washington is we are now closer to the brink of nuclear war than ever before.
Yeah.
How has that made us safer? It hasn't.
And 10% for the big guy.
The fact that no Democrat in Washington that I've heard, at least, and I've been watching pretty closely, has stood up and said, well, hold on a second. All of this evidence that's coming out, more and more evidence that's coming out about the corruption of Hunter Biden and President Biden's culpability in that entire mess. No one is saying, hey, we should probably look into this. They're dismissing it all and saying, the only thing Joe Biden talked about with Hunter Biden's, Ukrainian Burisma executive counterparts, they talked about the weather.
Yeah.
I heard a congressman say this, to the media, what are you guys even worried about? All he talked about was the weather.
Yeah. They flew over to Ukraine.
Right.
He flew over to Ukraine in 2015 with his son to talk about the weather.
To talk about the weather. And then when they came and visited Hunter in D.C., and Hunter called his dad, and they talked about the weather.
And isn't there somewhere in the neighborhood of $20 million that they got from that? From these dealings?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I've heard has been accounted for.
Yeah.
But then, you hear